What's up, everybody? It's your boy Tru Element 78 in the building with
your one and only reigning, defending Mondo Lucha Hall of Famer, the X-Man, Xavier Mustafa.
And everybody's favorite narcissist, the natural Chris Black.
And today is not episode 100 of our numbered episodes. Obviously, we have much more episodes than 100, but we're going to save the 100th official episode for you guys for next week. But we kind of have a state of emergency episode that we're going to drop today here on August 4th, 2021, where we're going to take a look at, explore, and discuss the state of the WWE, its treatment of its current talent, the releases it's made, the decisions it's made, the synergistic moves that it's made, the money making that it is doing and generating, and how all of that affects the company, the morale backstage, as well as AEW's future. So, for those of you who have been out of the loop, one of the big stories, or should I say, two of the big stories, one involving WWE and two involving AEW, and the two involving actually there's more stories even involving AEW, because nobody right now, I think, can deny that AEW is making moves. People can argue this comment that I saw somebody make on a Reddit post that AEW was white hot, which probably later on this podcast I will make the argument for that they are a white hot company right now with the decisions and the moves that they are making. But like I said, we're going to start off talking about WWE, but can't do that without talking about the big stories. And we'll start with AEW because this past weekend is when WWE made waves, and not for the right reasons, whereas AEW is kind of making waves for the right reasons in a lot of people's eyes. So AEW right now is currently rumored to have stolen Daniel Bryan and signed CM Punk. And so these are two of the biggest wrestlers in professional wrestling over the past 10 years that could possibly have been, Daniel Bryan jumping ship from WWE and CM Punk returning to wrestling after a 7-year hiatus from the ring. That's a huge get for AEW if they have pulled that off. We have no proof of it yet. They are teasing the fans right now as far as with the promos that they're cutting on television, but that's huge news for them. They've booked Arthur Ashe Tennis Stadium in New York to book a show where it looks like it's going to sell out, and they're going to have a crowd of 20,000 fans, which would be the largest non-WWE show in the United States since WCW went out of business. So pretty much, what's that, 18 years, 20 years, something like that. They just sold out the United Center in Chicago for their new Rampage show. This is going to be a Friday night show, and that's where it's teased that CM Punk is going to be. And that sellout puts them at like 13,000. WWE used to book the United Center, but they stopped, and now they do the Allstate Arena, which is where they were this week in Chicago, and we're going to get into that as well. And WWE stopped booking it because it's a very expensive building, but AEW jumped out the window, went and booked that. And in less than 14 days, not even 14 days, in less than 10 days, they're going to have 4 shows in Chicago with all of them being sold out. I don't know how you could sell out 4 shows in one city for WWE struggles to do that on a WrestleMania weekend to have all of their shows sold out. So, like I said, can't really argue that AEW is not white hot right now. Whether you think that white hot means they should be getting 2 million, 3 million viewers, I just look at the moves, how voracious or ferocious, however you pronounce the word, is their fans are consuming their content, product, and supporting it. Now, WWE this past weekend made the decision out of nowhere to come to terms on the release of Bray Wyatt from their roster. And that has sent repercussions throughout the wrestling industry. They say morale is low backstage now, at an all-time low. They've made decisions on TV to bury their NXT champion, and I'm not using that term hyperbolically. I really do believe that, because you bring up your NXT champion who is undefeated on NXT television, you have him lose to somebody who's been treated like a jobber on the main roster, and then that person gets coronavirus, so you can't even continue that story. Then you put him out there against Keith Lee, He wins a match last week and he loses a match this week. So that's 2 losses for your undefeated, in quotations, NXT champion. Apparently, they was saying that Ric Flair requested his release from WWE, but now there's conflicting comments about that, where I actually believe the second story, where they say that Ric Flair may have requested his release, but Vince McMahon essentially sent him his papers and sent him packing because they said Ric Flair was unhappy with the booking of Charlotte. And he texted Vince, like, fix it, like, make this right or fix it or something like that. And Vince was like, yeah, I will. You're fired, basically. So,
unless Ric Flair's complaint was stop giving her meaningless title victories just to kind of pad her totals, because that's exactly what they're doing. And I'm scared about what's going to happen at SummerSlam. I don't know. I don't have a good. It's not doing. I've said it before. She's not doing Charlotte any favors by booking her this way. So I can understand Ric Flair getting pissed, but I mean, that's got to be her only complaint, is that she's being booked improperly, because, I mean, she's a main eventer. So it's not that. It's not her spot.
right. So you got that going on amongst the other over 50 releases that WWE has done over the past 18 months. They've gotten rid of like 50 different competitors, and we're going to get into some things on here that are going to be maybe controversial to people. And let me just say off top right here at the beginning of the show, nobody wants to see anybody lose their job. But when you see some of the names that have been released and some of the names that remain on that roster, whether it's people that you don't think are good in the ring but could be good in a backstage role, or whether it's people that suck at their job backstage and still have their jobs. Like, the decisions that they've made, and WWE has chalked them all up to budget cuts. But then again, you see them bringing in people like Goldberg, who you know are making more money in one night than some of those wrestlers that have been released. I've laid out a story now for those of you who have kind of been out of the loop covering WWE for the past 18 months. Like, I didn't name everybody, but you had everybody like Braun Strowman, you had the Iconics release, you had Buddy Murphy release, you had Aleister Black release, you had Zelina Vega release and return. Like, all these different people. You had FTR released, you had Matt Hardy released, you had all these different people who you've cut. And now a lot of them have gone on to AEW, and then some of them have gone out into the independents to recreate themselves, where like Zack Ryder, aka Matt Cardona, who is not a GCW champion. And you might be seeing Chris Black take on the GCW champion at some point.
Who, Mark Cardona?
But
I mean, like, that's the champ, right?
Yeah. But we don't know. We don't know which GCW champion.
Showcase the champions. Book it.
Yeah, I heard Matt Cardona can cut a mean pizza.
Yeah, and then also you got things where they say WWE is trying to hijack the sponsors of AEW especially after the death match they just had on television. That I don't really know. I don't really believe. I do believe that WWE Proud Boys is what I'm going to call them. Are probably out here trying to get AEW canceled or whatever. But like I said, I've laid out the story bare over at least the past 18 months of what's been going on in WWE. And when you start firing main eventers, the people at the top of the card, I don't know how anybody can feel comfortable working in that company. In a company where your income, I believe, is not that way now. It used to be that way before a guaranteed contract. Should be based on your performance and your job. You should always be concerned about your job and an entertainment thing, because you're not entertaining, then then we can replace you. But the one thing is, WWE scripts everything. They're so meticulous about everything. If you're not getting over, a lot of times there are people who just suck in general on the mic and different things like that. But a lot of these people are only struggling because of the booking of WWE and not getting over, or whatever the case may be. But like I said, I laid out a story. What are you guys' thoughts? I guess we can start with the release of Bray Wyatt, and I'll start with Chris Black because I know Chris Black has been one of the major detractors on the podcast of Bray Wyatt. And so I'm curious to see what your thoughts are on WWE's actions and how this could affect them going forward.
So you're just saying, fuck my thoughts, huh? Okay, I see how it is.
You know what? Actually, you know what? We can't start with Mustafa because he hasn't gotten to say anything yet. Go ahead, Mustafa.
I will say I'm very, very surprised by this release. It just doesn't make any sense in any way, shape, or form. Why would you let go of one of the greatest gimmicks that you've, I don't want to say WWE created because I know it's a Bray Wyatt creation, but something that WWE has invested so heavily in to just let him go? That just makes absolutely no sense to me. Now, I granted, they said he was one of the highest paid people there. Okay. That makes sense. But I'm pretty sure maybe he would have renegotiated a contract for a lower amount, maybe not. I don't know. But I'm curious to see what happens with him next because it's already rumored, he's going to AEW, but they say that about everybody. They say maybe bringing back the Wyatt family, calling it something, the Rotunda Clan or something like that, with him and Bo Dallas and Braun Strowman. So, yeah, it doesn't make any sense to me, but I remember a wise man once told me in the wrestling business that everybody gets released. The question is when. Nobody stays in the WWE or under contract forever. They even had to let Hogan go at one time.
You got to book that for the New Year's Eve show. You got to book the Rotunda family versus the Ross family.
You're sponsoring it, right?
You said who's sponsoring it?
You.
I'll sponsor that, except for I'm not paying Braun Strowman $50,000.
I wouldn't allow you to pay him $50,000.
Pay him 50. Well, okay. So, just a minor correction. I haven't been a detractor of the Fiend. I was pro Fiend. I just hated how they booked him. I've said that they ruined him after the Hell in a Cell. A lot of people didn't want to agree with me with that. I posted on our slam board, strike 1 was the Hell in a Cell match. Strike 2 was losing to fucking Goldberg. And then strike 3 was losing just unceremoniously to Randy Orton at WrestleMania. And that's not even a knock on Randy Orton. They burnt this man in the ring, which was a kind of a dumb storyline. And was it WrestleMania he came back just like nothing happened? He was like all these weeks going up, he was burnt. Okay, so I'm actually not so shocked about Bray Wyatt being released because they've proven time and time again that they don't value that character. If that character had value, they would have given him the Roman Reigns push that Roman Reigns has currently. He would have had a lengthy title reign, a very dominant title reign, and none of that happened. So it doesn't shock me. And everyone talks about how they can't believe that Bray Wyatt was released because, you know, he's so creative. He's come up with all these ideas. Here's the thing. Vince McMahon, the reason why Vince McMahon has so much faith and beliefs in his own ideas is because he can kind of look ahead and think what the final form is going to be or something like that. I mean, obviously, he never knew from day one Undertaker would be what we got. But I'm saying in his head, he kind of knows where he wants to push him and what the final form, whatever, is going to be. With someone else's idea, he has to have faith that that's going to get over and that the final form is going to be something that he can kind of see for himself. If he doesn't, he has no faith in it. Everyone in their mama said the whole original Wyatt's family gimmick was a fucking awesome gimmick. Killed that shit off. The Fiend shit was an awesome gimmick. They killed that shit off. So, honestly, if I was Bray Wyatt, because of all the things that we're going to get into, probably about, you know, AEW and their grab of all this extra talent, if I was Bray Wyatt, I would take a year off, if possible, if financially possible, to clear my head, let all this hoorah die down, and then come back somewhere. I'm not going to say where. it'd be too cliche to go to AEW right now. That's why I said I think he needs to wait about a year to let some of this shit die down. So then his return isn't overshadowed by Punk or Bryan or whoever else.
Yeah, I was very shocked by it. I don't know if you guys saw the statistic that everybody who's been released, shockingly, or has jumped to AEW, was put out of the company by Randy Orton. Like, if you've interacted with Randy Orton, you've ended up in AEW in some way, shape, or fashion lately.
I heard he was changing his gimmick from the Viper to the Black Widow.
I think he's gonna have to change it. His gimmick should just be he works for the TVA. Like, he's sending all these variants to the beyond, which is AEW. But
his gimmick is Nick Khan.
Yeah, so somebody like Bray Wyatt, who you see, actually, you know what? I'm gonna even go back before Bray Wyatt. Somebody like Braun Strowman, who's in one of your main events of was that WrestleMania or WrestleMania Backlash or whatever it was before he was released. You have this guy wrestling for the WWE Championship, and then you release him. That's completely. It's hard to even kind of vocalize some of the decisions they made. And I'm trying to pull up the quote from Vince McMahon that he did this week, where he says that AEW is not competition. And he says, I'm gonna pull it up, but you have somebody like Bray Wyatt. Like I said, this guy has reinvented himself so many different times on your roster. Bo Dallas is still there, right? He wasn't released yet, right?
Yeah, he was released in April, I think.
Okay, he was. Who would know? He wasn't on television for so long.
Yeah, I think he spent 2 years off TV?
Yeah.
A long time.
Yeah.
It's not like it's an absence. Bray, like, as much as we shit on Braun Strowman towards the end here, that is a void on the show. Like, the show does feel different without having Braun Strowman out there, or seeing him or hearing like all of that. Like, I don't know. I got used to it. But you guys might like Bray Wyatt, like I said, who's reinvented himself multiple times. He's taken chicken shit and turned it into chicken salad numerous times. Probably the biggest moments of his career were his interactions with John Cena and the Wyatt family's interactions with the Shield. And then he was a guy that the WWE never got behind, ever. They never got behind this guy. Like you'll have people out there that want to argue, oh, they gave him the championship. What do you mean they never got behind him? They never really believed. He was always a transitional champion. And even when he was Bray Wyatt, the cult leader, he was a terrible cult leader. How many people did he actually convert? He had Daniel Bryan for like 2 months, maybe, under his trance, or maybe it was a month.
2 weeks.
Yeah. And then he had Randy Orton, which you had Luke Harper saw right through that, and WWE booked it in the most piss poor way, where it should have been Luke Harper, aka Brody Lee, for those you don't know. He should have been in the championship match with them, or him and Randy Orton should have been having matches. But that wasn't the direction that WWE wanted to go, even though that was the direction that would have made the most sense based on the story they were telling on television. And so Bray Wyatt wins the WWE Championship there, and then he loses it a month later at the Elimination Chamber. He won it at the Elimination Chamber, and then he lost it to Randy Orton. So his matches in the ring, some people would be like, they weren't all that. He wasn't the greatest in the ring or whatever. But that all kind of came down to the way they had him wrestle the gimmick. Like, you guys wrestle. Would you say Bray Wyatt could wrestle? It just kind of came down to the moves that they would have him do, like the spider crab thing or whatever, and all that type of stuff. That gimmick stuff kind of got stale with the character.
No, in my opinion, he can wrestle. He can wrestle his ass off. He can tell a good story, and he can talk well on the microphone. He was a well-rounded wrestler.
Right.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think I don't think, obviously he's not like, a mat technician or anything like that, but he worked his style and he worked it well, So, like Mustafa said, he could tell a good story, tell awesome stories. He had a gimmick that was over. Yeah, I'd say he could work.
So you have all of that. I don't know how you don't get behind this guy. Somebody that can talk on the mic, get it done in the ring, and come up with actually create ideals, present ideals. And I wanted to go back to something Mustafa said, that he was one of the highest paid people in the company. The reasons for letting him go and releasing him is they're saying budgetary cuts. But he was also one of the highest revenue generators as far as merchandise in that entire company.
Which makes no sense.
They absolutely they ruined him. They blew a load of potential just down the drain.
I feel that's like them getting rid of John Cena right now.
No, because at least Cena was able to blossom. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but I'm saying if they just let him go right now, just be like, all right, we don't need you. You'll be like, what? John Cena just came back with all new merchandise, and when I went to the live event this Saturday, everybody had it on.
And had what on?
The new John Cena merchandise. Okay. Keep in mind, he only been back on the roster for a week.
Actually, let's take a tangent real quick and tell us your experience of going to WWE post or mid-pandemic. I don't know where we are right now.
Yeah, man, no post.
So overall, I mean, the crowd was ridiculous. I mean, they were just eating up everything, and I don't know if it's just because we haven't had live wrestling in a long time, as far as WWE, AEW level wrestling. When I say when John Cena music hit, the only pop that I say would rival that was when Edge made his return at the Royal Rumble. It was deafening when that music
I want you to let the people know that you were there live for Edge's return, so they don't just think you're talking about on television.
Yes, I was. And I'm curious how it sounded on TV, but it was ridiculous. Like, literally, I thought I was going to lose my hearing. It was so damn loud. And it was cool to see, I mean, because the arena was packed, which I was kind of shocked at, because I'm like, okay, maybe post-pandemic or whatever we're calling the stage right now, people are still kind of, I don't know. But no, people came. People were out there. There were very few masks on. People were just out there just having a good time. So,
were you out there raw dogging the oxygen too?
I'm best. I've had the vaccine, so I'm good to go. But I will say it was refreshing to be there. It got me inspired about wrestling again, and I'm ready to go. So I'm ready for September 4th.
Were there any chants that you felt? Obviously. For those who don't know, he went to a live event here in Milwaukee, so it wasn't a SmackDown or a main event even or any of that type of stuff. So obviously these people know they're not on television, but WWE does record some of these. Were there any parts of the show that you felt the fans kind of hijacked or maybe ruined a promo or ruined, like chanting CM Punk or anything like that? AEW chants, anything? Or were they on their best behavior?
No, for the most part, everybody's on a good behavior. People chanted when they were really supposed to. They didn't try to take over everything, and they just kind of let everything flow. What I really like about the live events is that if you've never been to a live event, in my opinion, they are some of the better shows to go to because there's no commercial breaks or anything like that. So you don't get any weird, like, a person just got dropped with a clothesline. Let's go to commercial. Like, you don't get none of that crap. Like, it's just wrestling. Boom, 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 boom. And it's match, and then match 2, then match 3. It's not this match 1. Then you wait 15 minutes because there's a commercial break and then a backstage promo. There was probably maybe 2 backstage promo. I know one was the Usos hyping up the main event, which was the Usos and Roman Reigns versus John Cena and the Mysterios. And I think there was like one other, and I can't remember who it was. But you can tell like the wrestlers were legitimately having fun out there because they're not in a high pressure situation by being on TV. So that was refreshing to see. I actually thought that was the best match I've ever seen Rhea Ripley and Charlotte in. They were also in there with what's her name? Nikki Ash. Great chemistry out of them too. I think they're working out the little kinks between them. No pun intended.
Has anyone let Chris Black know that there's no commercial breaks at a Legacy Pro show so he can stop all the rest holds?
King of the rest holds.
But okay, so that's your experience going to a live event. So do you feel that? And I've said this on the podcast before, that I feel like the internet has given everyone a voice, and the more that you can kind of shit on a product or hijack or feel like you're controlling the narrative of the show, the fans like to do that online and on the televised shows, because to me it sounds like people really enjoy the product. And obviously, you know, the live show is different. It's not as contrived. The wrestlers kind of get to be more of themselves while still being in character. But how do you feel about that after going to the live event, this live event, and just from the past in general? Do you kind of ever get that feeling that a lot of the online voices just like to shit on the product because that's kind of the cool thing to do?
I think there's a lot of people that do that. And I overall, I really don't care for it, but I think there should be a little, like, you should hold, you know, AEW and WWE accountable for certain things. Like, certain things are kind of ridiculous. Like, the whole Nick Cage, or whatever dude name is, thing was kind of ridiculous. And I think it was unnecessary. You know, it ended up biting them in the butt with the whole Domino's sponsorship thing. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't worth it. But I think if done properly, it can make wrestling better. For instance, how you're getting the Becky Lynch chant when Charlotte is talking. Charlotte addresses those chants. The chants stop usually at that point. But if they kept cheering Becky, then they'll kind of be like, okay, now you're trying to put the fans are trying to put the tension on themselves, and then it gets ridiculous. But just keeping Becky Lynch's name out there, having Charlotte make the comment from time to time, when Becky Lynch finally does make her return, the crowd is going to lose their shit. And Charlotte's going to have all this content that they can go back with her saying smack about Becky Lynch every time her name is said. So there's pros and cons of it. But I think if done right, it's good for the business. But sometimes when you got people that are just, you know, towing the company line and, you know, everything else the other company doing is crap, like, that's not good for the business.
All right. And I found a quote that I was talking about. This is from Vince McMahon when he was asked about AEW. Well, it certainly is not a situation where rising tides, because that was when Ted Turner was coming after us with all of Time Warner's assets as well. That was a different situation. AEW is where they are. I don't really know what their plans are. All I know is what our plans are. I doubt that, Vince. I don't consider them competition in the way that I would consider WCW back in the day. Not anywhere near close to that. And I'm not sure what their investments are as far as their talent is concerned, but perhaps we can give them some more. And then Nick Khan said, I think the way we always look at these situations, you know, it's sort of like a horse race where the horse has blinders on. We're looking straight ahead at our lane and making sure we stay in the front of the pack. At the same time, everything is our competition. Someone had a line a couple of weeks ago that we all chuckled at and agreed with. Sleep is our competition, right? If it was up to us, people could be up 24 hours a day watching content from different content providers, hopefully including ours. So we don't look at any organization particularly as competition. Yet we see everything as competition with what we're trying to do in terms of eyeballs.
I agree with the fact that they said, you know, they're keeping the blinders on to keep them forward and being focused on their product. Because I remember one of the things Eric Bischoff said. Either it was three things he said. He was like, either you're going to be, be better than, or be different than, and there was like a third one. And he was like, his thing with WCW was he knew that he couldn't compete with the WWE just head on. So what he decided to do is make sure that his product was different than the WWE. And that's what brought the fans over to him. And I think AEW needs to take that same concept. Well, I feel they are doing that same concept, and they're kind of doing their own things despite what the naysayers are saying.
Okay. Now, I know I'm going to sound like I'm talking on both sides of my mouth, but AEW is not direct competition with WWE. And I don't know. I think it is, but I don't think it's a main concern. Let me kind of explain both of those reasonings. Okay, so the reason why AEW is not in direct competition with WWE is because WWE is sports entertainment. They have no competition for what they do. Now, WCW was more sports entertainment as well. A little more pro wrestling, but it could compete on Vince's level. AEW, New Japan, Ring of Honor, Impact, it's pro wrestling. Okay? Pro wrestling, sports entertainment, those are two completely different things. So no, you cannot compete with WWE as a sports entertainment company. You cannot compete on Vince's level. You just can't. However, he shouldn't be so cocky. They are a competition because they offer something different. They offer pro wrestling. If people want pro wrestling, then AEW is the place to be. But I can understand why they're being cocky is because WWE's been up there. The only threat to their fucking empire was WCW for those 83 weeks. Ring of Honor never got to that level. Impact never got to that level. NWA never got to that level. And AEW is just another flash in the pan to them. Right now, with all these moves that they're making, it's almost as if WWE is playing chess. AEW is kind of playing checkers. Right now, they're just reacting to everything. This person's released. Let's grab him. This person's released. Let's grab him. Now, CM Punk is not one of those just reactionary kind of things. They've been grooming him for a while. But, yeah, I think AEW needs to stay on Wednesday and just compete and show the world that they can put on a better presentation of professional wrestling than WWE, build your own fan base, and sooner or later, if WWE keeps doing what they're doing, the fans are just going to turn off Raw, turn off SmackDown, and just tune into AEW. Because this is ridiculous. Even the WWE sympathizers, they've run out of excuses, I think. They can't keep excusing this dumbass booking that WWE is doing. I mean, but we've all seen it. They all defend the shit. One day they're going to come to their senses if WWE doesn't change their practices. And they're going to be like, you know what? Fuck it.
I think what WWE is going to eventually do is I bet you they're going to put another show on Wednesday night.
That'd be dumb. That'd be dumb. They can't even they can barely get 1 million watchers on their other two shows. 3 shows.
You know, and AEW has had over 1 million viewerships, the past 2 weeks, I think?
Past 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
1.2 was the largest so far. The largest ever was 1.3. So they're like 100,000 off.
And I'm sorry, what's NXT's ratings been?
600.
Okay. Are we shocked that WWE is kind of burying NXT? I wouldn't be surprised if USA is probably like, fuck this show, and it goes back to just being a Peacock thing. Because they've, quote-unquote, failed against AEW in the little mini war that happened on Wednesday night. They had to bow out gracefully, move to Tuesday. They could come up with whatever excuse that they want to. And now, since they're on separate nights, AEW is getting 1 million plus viewers, and NXT is getting crumbs.
And I said this to Mustafa offline, where I'm like, I look at AEW right now as a return to the Attitude Era, where but it's the Attitude Era with good wrestling and not a bunch of naked women running around. We don't got people playing pimp characters or any of that type of stuff going on. It's the Attitude Era if those guys were able to show off what they could actually do in the ring as far as being professional wrestlers. Would you agree with that, Mustafa?
Yeah, I agree with that.
Because a lot of those guys in the Attitude Era could actually wrestle, but it was all about brawling back then. and also when I say Attitude Era, it's one of those things where AEW is such a close knit group of individuals and wrestlers, obviously, running the show, that they don't have a lot of leaks in AEW for the most part. And so when you're watching an AEW show, they're able to surprise you. They're able to keep you excited and on kind of like on the edge of your seat, because WWE is so coordinated and sanitized, where it's so easy to see where certain things are going, and a lot of times they swerve you just for the hell of swerving you in WWE. But like when it comes to like AEW, it really does feel like anything can happen, and sometimes that's for better or for worse. Like I said, when it was on that track record of every single show ending in a brawl, that was like a terrible time for watching AEW. I'm like, God damn, dude, I'm so tired of 15 people hitting the ring at the end of every show.
Well, it just shows that they're learning, and they just need to keep learning, and they need to do things a little bit out of the box, but not too far out of the box. One thing I want to comment on is what you were talking about, the Attitude Era. And I think one of the biggest difference between now and the Attitude Era is back during the days of the Attitude Era, you had a lot of people that can get on the mic and talk. They'll make you want to see whatever match they're in. It didn't matter if the match was absolutely terrible or if they didn't do any type of cool wrestling or if they weren't good wrestlers at all. You didn't care because they talked you into that match. And they had the charisma and or the gimmick or a combination of both that kept your interest. Well, now I feel like, okay, now we're in an era where we have all these better wrestlers, but we're lacking the charisma. We're lacking the ability to talk. We've lost the ability for us to give two shits. It's just like, oh, wow, that was a really good match. And then I'm going to forget about it in 2 weeks.
Right. Yeah, and WWE is a main culprit of that because of them handing people scripts and not letting them speak naturally in the way that they would. One of the few people I think has been given some leeway. We all know John Cena can go out there. They're not handing John Cena a scripted promo. I feel that Charlotte is kind of maybe given an outline, but I think she kind of has a little bit more leeway to go out there and just work with whatever they give her. Now that her dad's gone, who knows? Charlotte could be in trouble, like that meme with the kid from The Simpsons. But because that Simone Biles promo they gave her on Monday was atrocious, and she was like, "I'm going somewhere with this," and it never came back around to like what you were getting at. I heard it had something to do with mental health. Becky isn't here. It's like none of this makes any sense, and also WWE doesn't know character anymore because Nikki Ash is supposed to be almost a superhero, but she's almost a super villain. Like hero attacking somebody from behind. Like, are you Batman? Like you're attacking people from behind and hitting them with chairs and kendo sticks. You can only win matches when you jump somebody from behind or in a hardcore match. The fans are chanting for tables, and Charlotte putting Nikki Ash through the tables, which is getting her a pop. And that's just in the women's division. On the men's side, you have similar issues to where it's like Baron Corbin. I don't know where. I kind of like the Baron Corbin story actually, but even that is kind of confusing because you got like the baby faces like rub it in his face They lost everything, and I'm like, that's not really babyface behavior. Behavior is kind of everybody's a tweener now. Nobody wants to be on either side of the fence, and then WWE gets upset when they're not getting the crowd reactions that they feel that people should be receiving, and now they got to do all this crowd sweetening. Like last night on Monday Night Raw was completely atrocious, and it's funny they're not even good at with the crowd sweetening. You'll hear them cut the arena audio, and then all of a sudden it'll get loud, and you're looking at the fans. And the fans in the stands are like doing thumbs down, and
they're looking confused, like this isn't us.
Yeah, hands around their mouth, going boo. But then the sound is just ravenous cheering. Like people pointed out on Monday Night Raw that somebody must have hit the wrong button when Drew McIntyre was making his entrance, because it was like an edge pop when he was making his way down to the ring. And then you could hear Michael Cole in the background of the audio saying the 16-time world champion.
Oh,
so you know they hit the
hell no. Jesus.
So you know they hit the wrong button when Goldberg came out.
But you know what though? Like they shouldn't even need to do that because people are legitimately popping for stuff. I mean, here when Drew McIntyre came out, people lost their shit. And I was like, really? Okay.
It's not as loud as they want them to be. Goldberg came out, and this is what also when I get at. When WWE, this is one of the things I want to get at when I was reading the quotes as well. WWE saying AEW isn't competition, and with the way as small as the wrestling fans group of fans are these days, I'll probably say more than 50% of them look at the dirt sheets. They're on F4W online. They're watching Wrestle Talk. They're listening to this podcast. Hopefully, they're getting insider baseball from. They know what's going on backstage. So you to come out and say AEW isn't competition, and they're making these moves and these acquisitions that people see as a big deal. They're acquiring talent from you that they felt that you misused for the longest time, and they hop ship to these other companies, mainly being AEW and Impact on a much lesser note. You're giving them reasons to hijack your show with that comment. Like, oh, maybe we'll send them some more talent. So now, if Daniel Bryan does debut over there on a Wednesday and then SmackDown rolls around on a Friday, the fans are just going to be cheering for Daniel Bryan. They're going to hijack your show because they're seeing what he's doing over in his other company. CM Punk debuts, and now CM Punk is going to be in the psyche of your fans once again. Like, and he's never left. Like, but if he does that, like, they're going to be cheering for him on the WWE show, even though he's not there. He's on AEW or wherever he is. Like last night, you had people chanting during the Goldberg segment, "We want Wyatt. We want Wyatt," because they know that guy. They're gonna be, like I said, there's gonna be people that argue that he was given his fair shake. He was there for how many years? 6 years? 7 years? He was world champion. He's intercontinental champion. He held all these titles, tag team title reigns. He spent a lot of time on the top. Bray Wyatt was never necessarily in the mid card. Like the most mid card he ever got was his tag team with Matt Hardy. And there'll be people that feel like, yeah, he got his fair shake. You know, he got everything he deserved or whatever when he was there. But I would disagree because he's not in the company. That should have been a lifer. If you didn't have anything for him on television, you didn't know what else to do with his character, that's the guy that you make a producer backstage. You don't let somebody that talented with that mind leave. You locked them in, you locked them down.
Yeah, he wasn't valued. And I'm not, okay, like again, totally speculation. I've actually not even looked into this that deep in the internet because everyone's saying, oh, it's because of this reason. Oh, it's because of this reason. At this point, it's just like things that are valuable to you, you keep. Period. I mean, if they valued him, they would have kept him. They're not releasing Roman Reigns with his high-ass contract. They ain't releasing Eve Marie, even though she can go. There's a lot of people they could probably let go, but they may value them more.
And the funny thing is, at this point, I think if you're a woman, you're safe in that company because they need women. And it's funny because they're not even using half of the women they have. Where the hell is Asuka? Where's Naomi? Natalia's out now. So now you're just gonna have Tamina having matches with Eva Marie and Doudrop every week. Alexa Bliss is barely used in ring. And I do not envy the position that Alexa Bliss is in at all, having basically been gifted or grifted Bray Wyatt's whole fucking persona and him being released. And now you got to carry that torch with the type of fans, and I put fans in quotations, that we have out there, where she got harassed so much after his release that she had to shut down her Twitter and make it private.
Toxic ass people.
So, from a talent standpoint, in your opinion, after everything you've seen WWE doing to their talent, and as far as them releasing top talent, mid-card talent, just all around the board, breaking these contracts, how would you feel seeing all of this? Or how do you feel seeing all this? Or if you were in the company?
I just look at it as, if I was there in the WWE, I would make sure I take advantage of every opportunity I have. So if something were to happen and I were to get let go, I have some value in another company. If you're not doing that, if you're one of those people that's okay being on the show and sitting in catering and not doing anything and then just going home, you get what you deserve. That's how I feel. I mean, no matter how good you are, unless you are one of those people that get so high up in the company that they can't let you go, a Roman Reigns, a John Cena. I mean, I could arguably say Ric Flair one time, but a Triple H or any of those guys, you should always, know that you're one bad promo, one bad match, one crossing the wrong person backstage, and you're out the door. Unless you can become one of the untouchables.
I've spoke my piece on this. If I have no sympathy for anyone who is still with WWE or who signs with WWE or re-signs with WWE, you see what they're doing. Morale has got to be low. Your best bet, honestly, go out, make a name for yourself or a bigger name for yourself in the other companies. And when you're ready to retire, like 5 years before you're ready to retire, 3 years before you're ready to retire, see what WWE will offer you so you can ride off in the sunset at the end of your career. You go to WWE to die. Your career to die.
Here's another thing, too. If I'm in the WWE, let's say I'm in the WWE and I'm making $500,000 a year. You best believe I'm saving $400,000 of that a year. Because there's no reason you should work for WWE and then get let go and you broke.
So let's get into pitfalls to avoid, because WWE made the comment that maybe they'll send AEW more talent with releases. So hearing that also makes my morale kind of drop if I'm a wrestler in WWE backstage. It's like, damn, like, when do the cuts stop? Like you said, there's plenty of people back. They got plenty of options backstage. And like I said, we don't want to see anybody lose their job. But like, you got people like Dana Brooke still around. Like, oh no, actually, didn't they? No, they didn't get rid of Dana Brooke. They've released so many people so damn often that I have no idea who's still around. Because they sent Mandy Rose down to NXT, and they broke her and Dana Brooke up that way, right? Because I don't remember them releasing Dana Brooke.
I believe she's still there.
She's there for now.
Okay. So like, you have people like that who are still around there just in catering, like I said, not doing anything, but everything comes down to budget cuts. You haven't given this woman anything to do. She was improving, making strides 2 years ago, and it's gotten her nowhere. It's just gotten her beat down every week.
Wait a minute. You just made me think about something. Where are these budget cuts coming from? Why do they need to cut their budget? Didn't WWE make a ton of money during the pandemic? Didn't they make a ton of money selling the WWE network?
Again, only speculation, but a lot of people are saying that I guess Nick Khan's role or whatever is like to make sure there's no red anywhere. to make them as profitable as possible.
Yeah, these budget cuts basically come in to where they're a publicly traded company, and their goal is to always give the investors the highest return on their stocks. So, like, you know, when we started this podcast, or it wasn't when we started, I don't believe, but since we were doing this podcast, I told everybody that I had become a stockholder of WWE. So before I did that, there was a point in time 4 years ago where WWE stock was only trading for like $9 a share. And then all of a sudden, when they started making the Saudi deal and WWE Network and all of these different things started popping off, their stock price jumped up to like $70 a share, $80 a share. And I bought into the WWE stock system around like the $45 mark. And it went up from there, like I said, went up to like 90 or something like that, which I was like, oh, it's overvalued. Even when I bought it, I was like, this is overvalued. This stock isn't that valuable. And so then it dropped down from there, it dropped all the way down to like $30 a share. And now with all these cuts and everything, WWE has gotten back up to like that $50 a share. So that's the reason that these budget cuts have to be there, because they have to keep returning. They have to keep giving these investors a return on their investment, because there are a lot of people who weren't a part of the stock that bought into their stock when it was on that rise, and any drop in that causes a sell-off, which makes the company less valuable. So they have to maintain a level of a certain stock level on the stock market in order to keep their investors happy and to keep enticing more people to invest in the company itself. So, like, that's very simplifying it, but that's part of the reason. That's where these budget cuts are kind of coming in. WWE has. You ever been at work where you're done with all your work, but you have that manager, and Xavier Mustafa might be that manager, where they're like, why are you just standing around? There's plenty of stuff to do. And so you just got to always make yourself look busy. That's pretty much what WWE is doing with all these firings. Just making themselves look busy. We're making moves.
If you lean, you can clean. I hate that saying.
So that's kind of where the budget cut thing is coming into. Now, what I wanted to get at before we get up out of here, we've been on here for a while. I think we got like 10 minutes left. So like WWE, like I said, they mentioned maybe we'll send AEW some more talent. I think that's one of the pitfalls that AEW has to avoid. And for those who want to shit on AEW or all the WWE talent that they have signed, the thing to really realize about it is that they put the belt on Chris Jericho. Obviously, that's who you put the belt on at that time, because that was the biggest name in that entire company. Then they put the belt on Jon Moxley, and he got to travel around the world with the belt to New Japan and all that different type of stuff, and win other titles. So he kind of got to put the AEW title on display in Japan and let them know about the product. So he's kind of like an ambassador for them. Now you have it on Kenny Omega, but you have all these other WWE talents that you brought in. And what has AEW done? They've used that WWE talent, the name of those talents, to get other people over, in my opinion. Like, the names from WWE that are over, they know when they come in, they're already over, because they're there in AEW. People know who they are. Whether that's like Aleister Black obviously should go over in his feud with Cody Rhodes, but like Christian doesn't need to win every single match. He's already a made man. Matt Hardy doesn't really need to win every match because he's already a made man. But they're using these guys to elevate the Jungle Boys, the Darby Allins, and all these other people. Even somebody like Rusev, Miro in AEW now. He's in the role that he's in, playing the position that he should be playing, because he was one of those guys in WWE that never really got a fair shake. And so he's getting that over here in AEW. That's going to be the same thing with Aleister Black. Aleister Black got nothing in WWE. And he was putting on some of the best matches on some of the shows that he was on. Those series of matches between him and Buddy Murphy were spectacular in WWE. And obviously you guys watched NXT more than I did. And I know he put on great matches down there, like the match with he who should not be spoken of, the Purple Rainmaker. And so with WWE making that comment, though, one thing that AEW does kind of have to play it safe on and not sign up these people. You can use these people, maybe bring them over for an appearance, bring them over for a show, but not signing everyone up to long-term contracts like the Braun Strowmans of the world. Like Bray Wyatt is somebody that I would bring in, but I don't know. I'd much rather see Bray Wyatt go to New Japan than go to AEW. Like to see the Wyatt family appear in New Japan to maybe feud with the isn't that where the Samoan dynasty is over there in New Japan, Chris Black?
Say it again.
The ain't that where like the Samoan dynasty is in New Japan?
Oh, with like the Gorillas of Destiny.
Yeah, the Gorillas of Destiny.
Yeah.
Seeing like the Wyatt family reunite in New Japan to take on the Gorillas of Destiny.
That'd be hot. Or Bullet Club or whatever other faction that's over there. Like Wyatt can go over there as a cult member or a cult leader and start gathering people and make his own goddamn faction.
Yeah, I'd much rather see that than see him go to AEW. I think he's somebody with the creative mind that he has. Imagine the Fiend character in New Japan.
Or Fiend-like character.
I don't see it in New Japan.
I could see it because what was that character you had, Chris Black, that where it was? I forgot who it was. It wasn't Tanahashi. Who was that had the character where he tried to stab the guy with the knife?
Oh, that was Justin Thunder Liger.
Yeah. Jushin Thunder Liger. Yeah. Yeah. Like, there's no reason that a Bray Wyatt Fiend type character couldn't. You had the fucking Finn Balor over there as the fucking demon, pretty much in New Japan.
Yeah. Only problem is any type of Fiend knockoff will be seen as a Fiend knockoff.
Yeah, I'm not saying, but it wouldn't be a knockoff because it'd be the actual guy who played the character playing the character. Like, obviously he couldn't.
Yeah, but if Freddy Krueger played, another character that looked like Freddy, you'd still be like, even if it was Robert Englund playing it, you'd still be like, this kind of a bootleg Freddy.
Well, we also know that the Fiend character, the way the WWE originally did the Fiend, doesn't really work in professional wrestling. Like a thing that's impervious to all pain and everything like that being your gimmick.
That was their mistake. It could have been just Bray Wyatt had lost his mind and was just done.
Got it. Yeah, so, yeah, there's no reason that a character like that couldn't work over there and they could make it work properly. That was where WWE fucked up. We're going to make an unkillable professional wrestler. Like, even Undertaker in his original character wasn't just impervious to every fucking thing.
Right. But had the referee stop the match because you were getting your ass whipped.
Right. So, I don't know. Well, what do you guys think as we finish up? What pitfalls does AEW need to, every organization, including AEW and New Japan, need to avoid in this environment that WWE has created? Because I also feel like you have talent on WWE's roster now that maybe they are anticipating getting fired or they're going to ask for their release expecting to get picked up by one of these other companies.
Whatever they do, if they get these new people, they need to do something different with them. At least for a vast majority of them. People like your CM Punks, your Daniel Bryans, your Malachi Blacks, and your Bray Wyatts, keep them the same. But everybody else, I think you need to tweak a little bit. If it hasn't already been proven to be super over, then change it.
So, for AEW specifically, and I mean other companies can do this too, but number one, focus on long-term booking. Everyone likes to see a story go through completion. Number two, rotate talent. There's no reason why you should have the same people on every single week. Not to say that's what they do, but I mean, make it a little more like, make us miss people. Like, if Lance Archer is dominant on 1 week, I'm just using him as an example, give it a week or two before he comes back. There's no need. There's no rush. Take your time. Feel out the crowd for who is hot right now and kind of go in that direction, because kind of ride that wave. Don't try to stop or stifle it like other people, but just let it ride out, let it play out. If they're really hot, then they'll be hot. If they fizzle out, well, at least you tried. So that's what I got for them.
All right. Well, with that being said, WWE is really dropping the ball here. I think that Vince's comments kind of go back to them, like Chris Black said, they're sports entertainment. They have more than just wrestling. One thing I will give WWE on at this point, and it's something that they haven't done since the Rocking Wrestling days, is that they are really trying to be synergistic with all these other companies. You got them interacting with Rolling Loud. They're really putting they're really, you haven't seen them get behind anybody as much as they're behind Bianca Belair right now. You got Bianca Belair, Rolling Loud having matches. You got Bianca Belair on the Peacock Network commentating on the Olympics. You had what's his name, the Archer Infamy or whatever.
Damian
Priest. Yeah, you got Damian Priest working with Bad Bunny, and Bad Bunny being kind of an ambassador for WWE still. I don't know really what they have. Asuka's tag team partner who left, Kairi Sane. She's an ambassador over there in Japan, and she's been carrying the WWE flag over there for them. So that is the one thing where WWE is really making those strides, trying to get these international relationships and partnerships and really get themselves back out there in the mainstream outside of just their bubble, because they know that wrestling bubble, at least for WWE right now, has a shelf life. And I think they see that kind of closing down. They know these multimedia campaigns are where they are going to make their money at this point, besides replica belts. So, anything else from you guys?
Nope, that's all I got.
Yeah, that's it. I continue my ban of Raw until SummerSlam.
All right. Well, go ahead and give out your social medias.
I am at Xavier Mustafa on Facebook and on Twitter.
Follow me at The Natural Chris Black on Instagram and on Facebook, and at _natural_CB on Twitter. Be sure to check out my YouTube channel where I cover all things New Japan.
All right. And you can catch me at SlamcastTE78 over there on the Twitter. You can check us out over there on Discord. Please sign up to the Discord server. Saturday Night Slamcast is over there. Everywhere else, Facebook. Facebook, Saturday Night Slamcasters, YouTube is where you at. Make sure you ring that bell so you're notified whenever new episodes go up. Actually, I'm also going to probably push this out to the podcast feed. So if you're listening to this on the podcast feed and you aren't subscribed, please hit that subscribe button as well, or subscribe to the feed, the RSS feed. Also, be sure to check out the Saturday Night Slamcaster Slam board here on over on Facebook, I should say, where it's kind of a discussion board that may be moving over to the Discord channel, because there's a lot of work maintaining multiple places of communication. So we'll let you guys know about that in the coming weeks. Also, really looking forward to, like I said, make sure you sign up for the Discord. And I have information on like my Twitch channel that's going to be launching later on in the year. But the Slamcasters will be going to video. We'll be doing live shows for you guys. And that's likely going to be dropping for you guys around the November, December time. So, yeah, really looking forward to that. And other than that, holla at your boys. We up out of here. Come get slammed. See you next Saturday. Peace.